Welcome to another edition of the channel's Mailbag. So what is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is the part of the channel that you guys actually control. It's based on comments, questions, general feedback that you guys leave either on the YouTube channel, the website, or through one of my social media feeds. Mailbag contains what I think the answer is, what I think my view of the comment is, or sometimes, I just throw it out to the wider audience and say, what do you guys think? That's what Mailbag is. So let's get in to the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next one's from Matt Delaney in terms of what do we know about Behringer JT-16, an SMR I did in April 2025. And Matt writes, it's not a Jupiter-8, so it won't sound like a Jupiter-8. If it sounds good, then it's good value at $800. I own two vintage Mini Moogs, numbers 2248 and 3869. They sound better than my new Mini Moog. The new ones sound like the post 10,178 vintage Mini Moogs. In a mix, I doubt anyone would be able to tell the difference. I don't own a Poly D, but my tech thinks they sound pretty good. Just buy what you can afford. I'm a successful musician, so I don't care about the cost. You're spot on. It's not a Jupiter-8, but if they do a decent job like they have done on the UBXA and the Wave, then I think they will probably fly off the shelves as not so successful musicians like me buy them to play. You will always get the purists who will tell you that they can tell when the instrument is not what it says it is. But in my experience, that talent is only bestowed on a few. And as you say, once you have the instrument embedded in a mix, few will be able to distinguish it from the original or the various computer emulations these days, if I'm brutally honest. Next question comes from Mr. Tor. And this one was in response to the Roland A-880. 110 to 220 unit transplant, a video I did in December 2016. Good God. And Mr. Tor writes, I've just checked the service manual. It seems like the device is only using 5 volts. So you can actually get rid of all the ancient linear power supply sections and use a modern 5 volt SMPS. Switch mode power supply, that is for everyone else. Check it from the service manual. It looks very simple mod. There's nothing analog in this device, so it's no argument. The SMPS is much more efficient and outputs much less heat, which is better for main components anyway. Now, you're absolutely correct. The majority of the electronics devices on the circuit board will operate at plus or 5 volts DC with a 0 volt rail. And now you see a plus DC 0.5 ground being tapped off the transformer and rectified. Now, back in the day, many would comment the quality of the transformers that were placed in the units. Back in the day, most people would comment on the quality of the transformers that were placed in the units by manufacturers. They basically put any transformer in they could get away with as long as it didn't hum. So in the main circuit, in the main, you can satisfy both these scenarios using a transformer from companies like Meanwell. They offer shielded transformers a range of voltages and, depending on model, the ability to tune the output under load. The modification is really about creating the mounting brackets for the new transformer so it fits in the space occupied by the old transformer, and then changing the main and rectified power looms for the replacement. I should also say at this point, if you're not comfortable dealing with mains power, don't do it and let a professional do it for you. It should only take about an hour of their time. I should also state that when you get into situations where you have multiple voltage for different purposes, e.g. 6 volts to run a screen, 12 volts to run a drive, these situations are potentially a little more difficult to fix and that is the truth. It's relatively easy to find a power supply that will do plus or minus 5, plus or minus 12, but where you have multiple voltages on a board, say plus or minus 12, plus 6, plus or minus 5, 0, and maybe another voltage, which I have seen on some instruments, then it becomes really, really difficult to replace it with a modern day power supply, because they're just not built to cater for that scenario. You end up with companies like what's the Dutch company, Synth on it or other, and you see Sonic Synth, and you see them. They make power supplies for certain specific keyboards, like the Poly 6, for argument's sake. They make a drop-in modern switch mode power supply for that particular machine. I think the reason why a lot of people shy away from power supplies is because if you get it wrong and you manage to electrocute somebody, then unfortunately I think you might be under the cost for liability. But people who really know what they're doing don't really have a problem with that particular area. Mr. Tor wrote back, sorry, brain fade, saying I usually use higher voltage switch mode power supplies. Use one of those to step down buck converters to have better control on the output voltage. The Linear gear sometimes gets picky about the voltage, and I find most increasing the voltage a couple hundred millivolts usually fixes any stability problems. And I probably would agree with that. That's why I like the Meanwell supplies, because you can just tweak the voltage up and down a little bit, and it allows you to, when you put the load on, it's maintaining a constant 5 volts or whatever it happens to be. So there you go. But there are, I've used the word I've used the company Meanwell a couple of times in this, but there are other companies that do this sort of stuff. You're just looking for a good shielded switch mode power supply.